The studio lights flared to life as the countdown hit 0. Across every major news network in America, the words "Live Special," "Truth," or "Tech" flashed on screens. The camera panned slowly, settling on two podiums. On the left, Elon Musk, calm, almost too calm, hands loosely clasped, eyes scanning the crowd. On the right, Karoline Leavitt, sharp-eyed, poised like a blade, gripping the edge of her lectern just tight enough to show restraint. The host's voice echoed through the studio. Tonight, a conversation the nation's been waiting for. Tech power versus political force. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and X, and Karoline Leavitt, Republican strategist and rising star. A few polite claps, then a pause. Karoline didn't wait. "Mr. Musk," she began, her voice steady but laced with tension. "For years, you have used your platforms to influence politics, push narratives, and silence opposition, all while pretending to be neutral." The audience murmured. Elon tilted his head slightly. She continued, her words sharpened. "You've inserted yourself into matters of free speech, government policy, and even warfare." "Who elected you, Mr. Musk?" The host tried to interject, but Musk raised a finger, not to silence her, but to take the moment. "I didn't ask for a ballot," he said coolly. "I earned attention by building what others couldn't. The question isn't who elected me. The question is, why are the elected failing so hard that people are turning to engineers instead of officials?" The room shifted. Silence swept across the floor like a sudden chill. Karoline blinked. "So, you admit it. You see yourself as above government." "I see myself," Elon said, locking eyes with her, "as someone cleaning up your messes." Boom. The audience froze. No gasps, no laughter, just a stunned silence. Even the host looked sideways. Karoline's jaw clenched. "Is that how you justify destabilizing democracy? By calling it a cleanup?" Musk's smile was faint, cold. "If democracy depends on suppressing innovation, is it still democracy? Or just nostalgic theater?" The screen behind them flickered with viewer poll updates. Within seconds, social media was ablaze. The gloves were off, and the world was watching. The air in the studio now felt charged, not just from the heat of the spotlights, but from something far more volatile. Tension. You could feel it crawl across the floor, up the camera booms, into every headset worn by producers who were now frantically whispering in the control room. Karoline didn't blink. "You talk about innovation like it excuses everything. But innovation without accountability?" She leaned forward. "That's not leadership. That's arrogance." Musk remained still, blinking slowly, calculating. Then he said, "And politicians without vision? That's not governance. That's theater." The audience stirred again. A sharp breath here, a smirk there. You could almost hear millions of people at home leaning forward on their couches. "Let's talk accountability," Karoline shot back. "You fired entire moderation teams from your platform. Hate speech spiked 200%. Verified conspiracy theorists now trend daily." "I didn't silence anyone," Musk said. "I removed the silencers." Karoline pressed harder. "You're empowering dangerous voices. And you're trying to control speech you disagree with. Speech that gets people hurt," she barked. Elon stepped from behind the podium, breaking debate etiquette, and stood center stage. "Let me ask you this, Karoline. When the government lies, when it censors doctors, journalists, and everyday people, who speaks up? Who has the courage to rip the tape off the mouths of a nation?" "You're not a savior," she snapped. "You're a billionaire with a messiah complex." "And you're a politician with no product but panic," he replied. That was it. The control room's audio tech looked at the host. Should we cut to commercial? No, the producer said. Not yet. Musk turned slightly, addressing the audience now. You're here because you're tired. Tired of being lied to, policed, taxed, gaslit. You don't care if the truth comes from an engineer or a senator, as long as it finally comes. Some clapped, others stayed still. Karoline's voice cut through. We're not tired of government. We're tired of technocrats like you trying to replace it. And yet, Elon said, voice calm, eyes steely, every time something breaks, satellites, hospitals, highways, justice, they still call me, not you. A long, sharp silence. Karoline stared at him like he was a malfunction she was desperate to debug. The debate was no longer about left or right. It was about control versus chaos. And nobody knew who would win. Mr. Musk, do you believe democracy is obsolete? The voice didn't come from Karoline or the host. It came from the front row. A woman stood up without waiting for permission. Her press badge swung from her neck. Nicole Alvarez, investigative journalist, known for asking the questions everyone else avoided. The cameras swiveled. Elon turned, half surprised, half interested. Karoline's eyes narrowed. Nicole repeated it. You've undermined institutions, discredited elected officials, and moved faster than any form of public oversight. So I'll ask again. Do you believe democracy still works? A beat of silence. Then Elon stepped forward. I believe democracy is a beautiful idea, he said slowly. That's been poorly maintained. Like an old satellite drifting off course, still functioning, but no longer aligned with Earth. Karoline rolled her eyes. There it is, the metaphor, technobabble. You want control, not reform. Nicole didn't sit down. Then who decides what replaces it, Mr. Musk? You? A boardroom? Musk looked her dead in the eye. I don't want to replace it. I want to force it to evolve. Gasps. Karoline seized it. Force? That's your word, not mine. Thank you for admitting it. You're not protecting democracy. You're hijacking it. The host tried to regain control. Let's stick to the theme. No, Nicole interrupted. This is the theme. Tech versus trust. Elon stepped back. Look around. People don't trust their government. They don't trust media. But they trust their phones more than their congressmen. That's not my doing. That's your failure. The audience clapped. Not all, but many. Loudly enough for Karoline to hear it echo. She turned to the crowd. You're applauding a man who controls satellites, social media, and AI networks, all while refusing to be held accountable. Musk shot back. And you represent a system that controls nothing, solves nothing, but somehow still thinks it deserves to lead. Nicole sat slowly. The damage was done. The spark had caught. The studio felt like it was vibrating, not from the lights, not from the audience, but from the collision of ideologies. This was no longer a debate. It was a proxy war for the future. And the front lines were drawn in pixels and policy. The host leaned forward, hands folded like a nervous schoolteacher trying to regain control of a classroom. Let's talk policy, he said, but his voice trembled. Space policy. Karoline didn't wait. Space policy? Try space colonization. This man, she said, pointing directly at Musk, isn't launching rockets. He's launching jurisdictional nightmares. Unregulated, unsupervised, and entirely unaccountable. Elon raised a brow, then smirked. Unaccountable? Karoline, do you know how many international treaties your own office hasn't read? She snapped back. I read the part where private actors are not supposed to unilaterally decide where humanity goes next. Murmurs in the audience. The host tried again. Mr. Musk, she's referring to your unannounced launch last month. The one that blacked out communications over 5 time zones. Musk nodded. And yet, somehow, the world survived. Karoline leaned closer, narrowing her eyes. Did you override FAA clearances? Elon didn't answer directly. Let's say I chose progress over permission. Her hands gripped the edge of her podium. That's not how civilization works. He stared right back. Maybe civilization isn't working. The room was dead silent. The audience wasn't just watching, they were absorbing the seismic crack forming between innovation and government. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was a standoff. In the control room, red lights blinked on the main board. The feed director whispered, "Do we pull the plug?" But no one moved. Back on stage, Karoline stepped forward, breaking traditional debate decorum. What's next, Elon? Claiming Mars as a private state? Are you going to crown yourself king of the red planet? Musk, without missing a beat, I won't need to. The bureaucracy here is already dying under its own weight. The crowd gasped. On Twitter, hashtags began to spike. See Musk Unfiltered, Chun Karoline Claps, Back, Cha Live Debate. Meltdown. Karoline's tone shifted from fire to ice. You're not just disruptive, you're dangerous. Your ego is coded into every line of your software. Elon responded with a stare that didn't blink. Better that than rust coded into every bill your party files. Then came the surprise no one expected. A new window appeared on the studio monitor. A remote connection blinking Liv, the Secretary of Defense. The feed was choppy, but the voice was unmistakable. Elon Musk, the secretary began, we have multiple reports of unauthorized satellite reconfigurations over military airspace. This is now a matter of national security. Gasps again. Some staff in the wings stood frozen. Musk looked directly into the camera. National security or national stagnation? Your systems don't protect. They delay. I fill the vacuum you leave. Karoline took a breath, then fired the final shot of the round. And that's exactly what makes you a threat. The studio lights felt hotter now. The debate had moved beyond policies and platforms. It had become a battle of futures, one led by engineers, one guarded by politicians, and only one would win the audience tonight. The split screen vanished, and the Secretary of Defense's feed was abruptly cut. A beat of silence followed. Everyone on set and in homes across America held their breath, not out of fear, but anticipation. Karoline adjusted her mic. So now the Department of Defense is chiming in to clean up your mess? Or is this just another chapter in the Musk doctrine, where rules are for everyone else? Elon didn't blink. The world doesn't evolve through caution. It evolves through momentum. Karoline leaned forward, tone sharpened. Momentum without accountability is just chaos, Elon. You're playing emperor with global infrastructure, not toys in a lab. For the first time, Elon's jaw tightened. And you're playing gatekeeper to a broken machine. Government has become a firewall, not a foundation. A buzz flickered in the studio earpieces. Off camera, the host got a note. Break in 90. Commercial or meltdown? But the director's voice shot back. Don't. This is gold. Karoline pointed at the audience behind the glass. These people, they didn't elect you. They didn't choose your algorithms. And yet, your satellites hover over their heads, your chips edge into their lives, and your code decides what they see. Musk replied coldly. And your committees bury innovation in red tape and delay until it dies in silence. A gasp echoed through the audience. The camera cut to the host, frozen, unsure whether to mediate or surrender. You want a headline, Karoline? Elon said, stepping out from behind his podium. Here it is. This is not the age of policy. It's the age of engineers. Karoline stood too. Then let the world see the cost of unchecked ambition. The The two now stood center stage, no longer politicians and pioneers, but two opposing forces crashing on live television. One held a vision of raw power, the other, the last shield of institutional control. And no one, not the host, not the crew, not even the audience, could look away. Shall I continue with prompt 7? The tension is only getting thicker, and the first walk-off is about to happen. Let's be honest, Elon said, stepping from behind the desk again, ignoring protocol. Every time the government feels threatened, it calls it a national emergency. But what you really fear is losing control, Karoline cut in, raising her voice. That's what terrifies you, that people might actually demand oversight, that your satellites, your chips, your AI won't operate in the shadows anymore. Musk turned, gaze unwavering. Oversight doesn't equal insight. If anything, your panels of suits with 3-year timelines are the real danger. The future isn't waiting for your subcommittees. The moderator tried to interject. Can we please? But Karoline was already moving closer, her voice rising. So the future belongs to who, Elon? The man with the most patents? The most engineers on payroll? The one whose AI scrapes every thought without consent? Elon's lips curled. Better than those whose ideas are voted down before they ever reach a hearing. The tension in the room cracked like glass. The camera operators zoomed in instinctively. Studio lights felt radioactive. Karoline, nearly trembling, snapped. This is not innovation. It's a techno coup. And America doesn't take orders from billionaires with God complexes. A low gasp rippled across the live audience. Then Elon whispered into his lapel mic, deliberately not muted. Remind me why we agreed to this circus? The boom mics caught it. So did everyone watching at home. The moderator froze. Karoline's eyes locked with Elon's. You just disrespected every voter watching this, she said, voice low, deadly calm. And you think you're above it all. Elon looked toward the control booth. I came here to talk, not be accused. The audience felt it. The walk-off tension was real now. The dam was cracking. Karoline folded her arms. You don't walk away from a conversation just because it's uncomfortable. And that's when Elon Musk, in front of 4.2 million live viewers, stepped back, unclipped his mic, and said quietly but clearly, then maybe you should try listening more and lecturing less. He placed the mic on the table, turned, and walked off the set. The moment Elon left the frame, the room dropped into a disorienting silence. Not even the moderator knew what to say. For a beat, all that could be heard was the soft hum of studio lights and the faint buzz of live-stream chat feeds exploding off-screen. The moderator glanced nervously at the producers behind the camera, whispering, Are we still rolling? A voice came through his earpiece. Keep going. Do not cut. Karoline stood still, mic clipped tight, gaze locked on the now empty chair across from her. There was no grin of triumph, no gloating, just a deep, burning focus. She stepped forward, voice steady but electric. Ladies and gentlemen watching at home, let's be clear about what just happened. When confronted with the real weight of his choices, Mr. Musk chose to walk away. That's not leadership. That's evasion. The camera cut to a wide angle, capturing the vacant chair, still warm from Elon's presence. I don't fear technology, she continued, but I fear silence from those in power. Silence when asked the hard questions. Silence when held accountable. And silence, tonight, when the truth demanded more. In homes across the country, people leaned forward. The chat feed was split down the middle. She roasted him. He saw the trap and bailed. Is this real? Best debate in years. The moderator finally spoke, voice cautious. Ms. Leavitt, do you think Musk will respond later? She didn't hesitate. Oh, he will, but not with answers, with tweets, with threads, with numbers and charts that distract from the reality we live in. Pause. Then she looked directly into the main lens. And here's the truth. You can build rockets to Mars, but you still live under the same sky as the rest of us. And under that sky, we're all accountable. Backstage, Elon's team watched in a mix of anger and admiration. Some of them knew this wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a cultural fault line cracking in real time. A public trial of vision versus values. And the court was millions strong. And neither side was backing down. Within 20 minutes of the broadcast ending, every major news outlet in the country had already cut together a highlight reel. Musk's walk-off, Karoline's firestorm monologue, the moment the microphone hit the desk like a dropped gauntlet. On YouTube, the clip was titled, Musk Leaves, Karoline Stays, Who Really Won? It crossed 2 million views in under an hour. Hashtags ignited. Musk walks. Karoline confronts. Live meltdown. Saw Tech V's truth. At SpaceX headquarters, Elon was sitting alone in a glass-walled meeting room, lights dimmed, his phone face down. Across from him, a paused TV screen showed Karoline mid-sentence. Eyes sharp, voice frozen in that unforgettable line. You can build rockets to Mars, but you still live under the same sky as the rest of us. He took a deep breath. His comms team was frantic outside the room, drafting statements, strategizing counterclips, preparing his Twitter thread. But Elon hadn't spoken. Because deep down, he knew. This wasn't just PR. This was legacy. For years, he'd shaped global discourse through disruption. He hijacked headlines, outpaced regulation, and turned skepticism into spectacle. But tonight, he had left the arena mid-battle. Meanwhile, Karoline was on every channel. Not smug, not boastful, but composed. I don't hate Elon Musk, she told CNN. I just think accountability should be a universal principle, not a luxury for the powerful to avoid. A panelist on MSNBC called it, "The night technology blinked." By midnight, thousands had tweeted at Musk, some in rage, some in support, others just asking one thing: will you answer her? At 1:27 a.m., Elon finally picked up his phone. He didn't open Twitter. He opened his Notes app. And he began typing something nobody expected. But he didn't post it. Not yet. Because this time, it wouldn't be a meme. It wouldn't be a clever retort. It might not even be words. By sunrise, the global media cycle was orbiting around one question. Would Elon respond? News tickers ran non-stop. Podcast hosts dissected every second of the broadcast, and late-night comedians already had punchlines loaded. Karoline Leavitt, meanwhile, was on her third interview of the morning, reiterating a message of transparency and civic responsibility. Her approval ratings surged. People who had never heard of her now debated her every word. Some hailed her as a fearless voice in politics. Others called it performative grandstanding. But no one could deny one thing. She stood her ground. At 7:42 a.m., Elon finally posted. It wasn't a thread, not a joke, not a GIF, just one black and white video, 14 seconds long. A close-up shot of the Earth, as seen from the cupola of the International Space Station. The planet rotated slowly, almost peacefully. And then, a caption faded in. We all live under this same sky. Maybe it's time I listened from below. No logo, no music, no signature. Just silence and reflection. The video was viewed 89 million times in the first hour. Karoline retweeted it with a single word: start. And with that, the narrative shifted. Not into a feud, but into a moment. A real, rare moment where confrontation sparked clarity. Where a conversation, as turbulent as it was, opened a door both hadn't expected. Later that week, Elon invited Karoline to a private, off-camera conversation at Starbase. The invite was made publicly. Her reply was, too. Only if the janitors are invited to the table, too. Musk liked the tweet. And for once, Twitter didn't explode. It exhaled. Because maybe the most powerful message of all wasn't what was shouted under stage lights, but what came after. In the quiet. In a world dominated by volume, sometimes silence speaks loudest. What began as a fiery clash between innovation and accountability ended not in triumph, but in transformation. Elon Musk, the disruptor. Karoline Leavitt, the challenger. Two voices collided on live television. And what followed reminded millions that real progress isn't always measured in rockets launched or poles climbed. Sometimes it's in the pause, the choice to listen, and in the courage to answer differently. The question now isn't who won the debate. The question is, what happens next?